Hello fellow collectors and welcome to Long's Toys. Today we are taking a look at Core Class Cheetor from the Transformers Legacy United line from Hasbro. I think it's kind of interesting that it doesn't say what it's from. It doesn't say Beast Machines Universe here on the top. Usually they do that. Not a big deal, just thought it was interesting. But yeah, we have some nice artwork here on the side and up here on the top of the card of Cheetor in Cheetah mode. And then we have the plastic-free packaging, so no window here. You can reach right in and touch the figure. Over here on the side, we have the half of the Legacy United mural. Not really anything going on the bottom. Just have the Legacy United logo there on the top. And spinning it around to the back, we have some nice product shots of the robot mode and the cheetah mode. It says 12 steps to conversion, but I feel like that's generous. You just kind of lay them down, but we'll get there. So I'm going to go ahead and get Cheetor out of the packaging here, and we'll take a closer look. Here is Cheetor out of the packaging. He's pretty cool. I mean, honestly, I like the robot mode. I think they did a nice job with that. There's a lot of detail and a lot of paint applications. So you can see you have like the cheetah patterning here on the shoulder. The head sculpt is pretty good. The eyes are definitely kind of freaking out. I think the way they did those is kind of funny. But again, you have the cheetah patterning here on the head, on the chest, which looks pretty good. All of the green is really nicely done. A little bit of detailing down here in the abdomen. Some more cheetah patterning here on the side. And then you have a little bit of paint here on the kind of, I guess, looks like the tongues of his sneakers, let's be honest. But yeah, he's pretty cool. He's a core class, so I'm trying to kind of give it some allowances. But I think the robot mode is pretty good. Articulation-wise, the head can just swivel side to side. You have a ball joint here in the shoulder. Now, you do have these large pegs that are used for the cheetah mode, and they can kind of get in the way and hit into the chest and stuff. But you do have a ball joint there, and then you can go a little bit out to the side like that. There's kind of a little inlet there, so that can do that. You have a ball joint down here in the elbow. Nothing in the wrist. Nothing in the waist, because the way it kind of comes up and locks into place. You have a ball joint in the hip, which is pretty good. You can kick pretty far out to the side, pretty far forward, pretty far back. But again, you have this tab, which is used for the transformation, that can kind of hit into stuff. You do have a thigh swivel as well. Then you have these double jointed legs. And if you really wanted to get nuts with it and just make him ridiculously tall, you could. But then he's going to be about 90% legs. But if you wanted to do that, you could. In the show, he definitely had, you know, kind of the weird backwards knees, so I'm going to stick with that. Probably something about there. Unfortunately, nothing in the ankle, which I was kind of surprised about. I didn't expect much. I mean, a ball joint would have been nice, but even just kind of like a swivel or something, but there's just nothing in the ankles. But you can kind of get there with the thigh swivel, so you can get him in a pose, and he can really not have too much trouble standing, which is nice. He comes with the two swords, which I think are really cool. He had those on the show, and I think they did a nice job with them. You have a couple options with them. Obviously, he can hold them in each hand. You have a little peg there. You can also peg them together. So you have to kind of switch the angle. You can't do them like that, because then it's going to hit into this peg here. So you kind of have to offset them like this. And then you can peg them in like that. Now, the problem is, unfortunately, I would like it so that he could, you know, hold them like this. But because of the way it kind of hides the two pegs, you have to use this peg here. And so then he kind of holds it like that, which is all right, not as great. I think what we could try to do, which I'm going to try, if we just kind of peg one into the top but don't push it all the way in, and then peg the other one into the bottom, you could do that, which I think is a much cooler look. I like that a lot better. And that's pretty simple to do. The directions don't show that, but you absolutely can do that, and I think that looks a lot better. So that's kind of cool. The other thing is you have storage for them up on the shoulders. So they have these rectangular pegs here on the sides, and they are meant to peg into these little spots right here. So you just pop this in here, and then that will tab in there. Do the same thing over on this side, like this. And so you can store them there. And they kind of blend in decently. Now, it is going to hinder articulation somewhat, just because now you have more pegs and things in the way, so this can hit into the chest. But honestly, not too bad. So that's kind of cool. So you have a storage option there as well, if you want to store them there, which I think integrates fairly well and looks pretty good. So all in all, I like the robot mode. I think they did a nice job with that. My really only complaint is I wish there was something in the ankles, but I guess because they had put so many joints, I mean, you have the hip, you have the thigh, and then you have the two knees. I guess they had to kind of cut corners somewhere, so I guess that makes sense. And he doesn't really have any trouble standing, which is cool. So yeah, all in all, not too bad. These move around a little bit. They do have, you can see that there's like a slit there, and there's kind of a rectangular peg that's meant to peg in there. But it doesn't snap in as tight as you'd like. It just kind of gently rests in there. I mean, it's not a huge issue, but sometimes if you're moving them around, that can come loose, but not a huge problem. All right, I'm going to go ahead and we'll get into the transformation here. So the transformation is pretty simplistic, but I feel like they did the best they could with the source material, because even back in the day, you know, it's a cheetah. He just kind of, you know, lays down on all fours, and that's just kind of what you have to work with. But you're going to start by taking the head and rotating it 180 degrees. And then you're going to flip the cheetah head over top of that. Now, a significant portion of the head does peek forward, which I'm not a huge fan of. I don't really know what else they could do, because if you leave the head, I mean, I guess technically you could. It will close all the way. But then, of course, you're going to see the head and the neck, so they had to hide that somehow. But if you're kind of looking at it straight on, I feel like this is a little bit more curved and kind of blends more down into like a logical neck. So, you know, if you're going to keep them in cheetah mode and you're not too worried about seeing the head, you could leave it like that. It will sit there. But, you know, officially you're supposed to rotate this down. I just don't like the look of that real sharp bit hanging down in his neck. But we'll leave it that way for now. The next thing you're going to do is just take this, and they will come around. They have little tabs there that will peg into the bottom of the fists, so that is a pretty secure connection, like that. Then you're going to take these large tabs that jut out, and they will tab into these little spots right here. And it can be a little difficult to wiggle these in here, because you have to kind of line it up and kind of tuck it in there. So it can be a little difficult, but keep at it. There you go. No, that one didn't go. There we go. Okay, so once that's in, you know, that's solidly in, and then you just kind of bend these at a logical angle, and then you basically have the whole front section of the cheetah done. You're going to come here. You can see that the tail is kind of tucked in here, and so you're going to bring this down. You have to unpeg the tail, which can be a little difficult to pop this out here. There we go. But you can see that there's a tab on the tail, which tabs in right here, which is nice because it keeps the robot mode solidly connected, which I appreciate. So you got to just kind of get a finger in there, pop that out. Once you do that, you'll be able to bend it. You can see that there's a bend right there. Then you want to take these tabs that have been jutting out from the inner thighs, and they're going to slot in right here and here. So you're just going to kind of push these in and really just kind of push them in as tight as you can. And you might have to kind of rotate the ball joint of the hip a little bit to do so. But once you get that in, then you can rotate at the thigh to kind of bring these out a little bit. And then you just want to compress these as tight as you can. So this will compress all the way in. This will compress all the way in. And just push these all together as much as possible. And these will kind of pop out. So sometimes you might have to come in and just kind of push them back in a little bit. And then just situate the arms, and there you go. There is your cheetah mode. So, I mean, the cheetah mode's not perfect, but like I said, it's what they could do with it. I get it. It's a weird design. Beast Machines had a ton of weird designs, and that's just kind of what they gave them to work with here. But I think the printing on the cheetah head is pretty good. Again, you have some more cheetah spot printing here on kind of like the back of the neck and the top of the head there. Otherwise, it's pretty much just the robot mode kind of compressed. This is really the only kind of piece you don't see in robot mode. Now, like I said, you have that little bit jutting down if you wanted to switch the head back and then pop this down. You know, you kind of see that a little bit less. And honestly, unless you completely turn them like that, you're not going to see the robot head, so it's up to you. I guess from this angle, you would kind of see it, but you can't really tell what it is because it's so small. So it's up to you, whatever you prefer, but there you go. And if you want to store these back in here, just like we did for the robot mode, you absolutely can. So let me tab these back in. There we go. And tab in the other one over here. There you go. And that doesn't look too bad. They're a little, I feel like they work a little better for the robot mode. They're a little too big in this mode, but it's not terrible. But yeah, there is the little cheetah mode. I mean, articulation-wise, these are all locked in. And I guess you could stretch out the legs if you wanted to, but it doesn't really make sense to. So basically, you kind of have the elbow joints from here, and that's kind of it, since all these pieces are locked in. So yeah, not too much articulation in this mode. At the end of the day, I think Cheetor's kind of a fun little figure to mess around with. It's definitely not the best core class they've ever done, but you kind of have to think about what they had to work with. Beast Machines was definitely some of the weirdest designs I think we've ever had in Transformers history, and Cheetor especially was always just kind of, you know, a robot that kind of just, you know, dropped down to all fours and was a cheetah. I mean, that's just kind of how Beast Machine's Cheetor was. So, like I said, they only had so much to work with. I've seen a lot of people online complaining, and I can understand how you might be a little upset with the simplicity of the toy. Some people comparing it to, like, you know, a McDonald's toy. And I think part of that is just because the first pictures we saw online was actually someone playing with it at a McDonald's. But also, I would equate it to the fact that some of those Beast Wars McDonald's toys back in the day just went really hard. Those were really fun little figures for McDonald's toys. So, you know, don't put this guy down because the McDonald's toys were just that good. But in any case, like I said, I think it's a fun little figure to mess around with. Is it perfect? No. But I really like the swords. I think the robot mode is definitely the more successful of the two. Has some pretty nice articulations, some nice paint applications and things like that. And just kind of fun to mess around with. The cheetah mode, not nearly as successful because so many of the arms kind of get locked in place. And I think they did that really just so they could kind of like make it work, because otherwise it would just kind of be like a mess of limbs. So they wanted it to kind of have a little bit of form in the cheetah mode. So it's kind of a trade-off. You lose articulation, but you get that little bit of an assured form in the cheetah mode. So it is what it is. Now some of these tabs, you know, look a little unsightly in the robot mode, just kind of hanging out and getting in the way. But all in all, it's really not too bad. You have a couple options for the swords, which I appreciate. You know, I think he looks best just dual wielding them, but you can tab them into the shoulders. You can have them connect together and have him hold it by the tab right here, or you could just kind of peg one into each end of the fist. That also works, so that gives you a pretty good amount of options for using the weapons, which I like a lot. My biggest complaint, though, is just no kind of ankle movement. I wish he had, you know, kind of a ball joint or a swivel or something, but it's core class again. A lot of them don't have ankle movement, so that makes sense. But I feel like when you have a character kind of this lanky, articulation is kind of his main thing, because the transformation is simple and everything like that. So while it might not necessarily be fair to complain about a no ankle movement because it's a core class, if you were ever going to do one for core class, I feel like this would have been the guy to get one. But he still stands perfectly fine. I had no issue there. Yeah, he's okay. I mean, I think it's kind of funny. Some of these universes are kind of getting relegated to core class, like with Energon and now Beast Machines. Beast Machines, I definitely get it more. It's a smaller cast of characters, kind of weird designs, and so, you know, not the most popular as well in the fandom. So you wouldn't probably devote a ton of, like, actual wave space to, you know, deluxes and Voyagers and things for those series. I feel like Energon could have probably done more. But, I don't know, just having them all in core class could be a lot of fun as well. I mean, if they wanted to do the main 4 Maximals for Beast Machines in core class, I think that could be a lot of fun as long as they're all kind of together in the same scale. I think that'd be kind of neat. I just don't want, like, core class Cheetor and then, like, Voyager class Optimus Primal. That doesn't make any sense. So, yeah, we'll see how this goes. But for now, like I said, for $10, I think he's kind of fun and he's worth fiddling around with. So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And as always, thanks so much for watching.